welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who now tuned in. So, of course, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the Mortal Kombat movie that just came out in 2021, the new Mortal Kombat movie, which was a headline mainly focused on Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Okay, before I go off, I want to say that I'm going to give my personal opinion, overall view of it overall, because I noticed there are some different opinions and points of views regarding this new Mortal Kombat movie, okay? Now, I watched the movie yesterday evening, and I watched it again. Also, the second time I watched it one more time before I decided to give a review of it. I watched it again earlier this morning. And as I can say, after I've watched it 2 times, my overall, what did I think of the movie? Was the movie good? It was a good movie, okay? If you're talking about a good movie for, like I said, movie night, good popcorn movie, it was good. It was a good movie. It had enough action that kept you not being bored. It was an okay storyline. As I said, there were a couple of fight scenes that were cool, but however, I don't think personally that there were enough fight scenes, like well-established fight scenes in this film. I think with the film at itself, compared to the past films, this film kind of rushed the fight scenes. That is a major issue I had with this movie, in the new Mortal Kombat movie. I feel that the fight scenes were rushed. They didn't give us enough with the fight scenes. Another thing that I thought was very intriguing, very awkward and weird was the storyline of the characters, how they choose to go with the characters. Number one, the major big thing and issue that I think that a lot of people probably thought the same thing, but what really I was very curious of is who the hell was this new character? Who was this new character, Cole? Who was he? Okay? Because it looked like they tried to establish him as the lead character or the leader of the Mortal Kombat fighters or the champions in this film. It was just that I just didn't understand, okay? For all of you guys that grew up and all of you guys that know from the original Mortal Kombat films and the video games, this is why it was so intriguing. It was so much confusion, like what is going on here? We didn't know anything about Cole. We didn't know anything about Cole. So I think also that's why I was I'm curious, what's going on here with them? How are they going with this Mortal Kombat movie? But as I said, to my personal opinion, a lot of you may agree with this. As I said, we're talking about movies nowadays, and especially in the modern day. Okay, these movies are getting out of hand. Where at some point they lose some of that essence of the movies, of the films. We're talking about a real good film movie. And I know you guys probably what do you mean, MJ? What are you referring to? Well, what I mean is you know how certain movies and certain films, whether it was action, horror, it didn't matter what it was, it had an overall essence to it. But when you start focusing on, so when these production companies and these directors and producers start focusing on more of, okay, what can be quick selling or what can be quick appealing to the masses of people, I think that tends to lose some of the uniqueness about the film, and especially when you're talking about a film franchise such as the Mortal Kombat. I think that I didn't like the direction they went. I will say that I did not like the direction that they went with the storyline, the main storyline. It was just confusing and it was baffling. I did not like that. I think that was a strike for me. That was one. It just made no sense whatsoever. Also, another thing that I thought was pretty confusing was, before I go on any further, also, like I said, I have more dislikes than likes about this film. As I mentioned to you guys a few minutes ago, I think it was a cool film. It was all right. It was entertaining as far as you just want to watch for some action. But the fact that the franchise it was of Mortal Kombat, the storyline was not in synchronization. I think the storyline was kind of just all over the place. It seemed like they were just throwing things together for this Mortal Kombat movie just to make it for the new Mortal Kombat movie for the newer era right now. And I think that was a poor and sloppy and tacky job, okay? But that's just my opinion. Another thing, like I said, it was a decent film. It was okay. What else can I say about this film? I don't really think I can say too much more about this film. Is that's it? Okay, I have more negative things to say about this film than positive. Like I said, it was a cool film. It was a good film. If you're looking for just something good to watch, it was a good film. But like I said, it was just too many things confusing. Also, now let's get to the next thing I was going to say. The characters. I did not like the direction with that they went with the characters. I think that it was just all over the place. It was so confusing. The number one reason why I was so confused and baffled on the characters is, okay, we know from the original Mortal Kombat movie that came out in the 90s, and then the Mortal Kombat movie that followed it, we already had got introduced to the characters. We got introduced to certain key characters like Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, Kano, Jax, Raiden. We got introduced to these characters already, and we, even more to go on to it, we had already got introduced to them by their backstories of them coming together. So I thought it was very baffling and intriguing. Like, the storyline is like, you guys are giving us some new version storyline of these main key characters in Mortal Kombat series and the franchise meeting each other. We've already seen this, so that was very baffling and intriguing. I did not like that personally. I didn't like that. I think if they want to do how they made the main focus of the majority of the film was the backstory of what happened to Scorpion's bloodline compared to Sub-Zero's bloodline, I think it made no sense for them to go and show us once again, because the whole movie was pretty much us getting introduced to the cast again and how them coming to meet each other. It made no sense. The chronological order just didn't make no sense, because we had already got that already. We had already got that film where they had got introduced to each other. Yet alone, we had already got another film, the following two films, where it continued on after the storyline, after they had met each other, so on and so on. Like, so it made no sense for them to give us that introduction of the characters, those key characters from Mortal Kombat, and especially the story of them meeting each other for the first time. It just made no sense. That was just complete. That was just upsetting and very baffling to me. As I said, like the characters, I think that was a poor job. It was a poor job with the characters. It was also a poor job of I think this so-called introducing the character code, but it was like they was trying to make him and make it as it seemed as he was the leader of the Mortal Kombat fighters or the champions. That made no sense. Or if they was introducing him to the lead role, that makes no sense whatsoever neither, because it just was too baffling. On one hand, you're trying to introduce a new character code, but you're trying to maybe possibly introduce him as the leader, a new leader possibly, but it makes no sense to synchronize that with him, with the already key cast that we knew being introduced for the first time and how they coming to meet each other. That just made no sense to me. That it was just all over the place. So it kind of lost me with that. Other good things, as I said, the film was good. It had some action in it. It had a little action in there what kept you going. But I do think, as I said, the fight scenes, I think the fight scenes were rushed. They were very rushed. The fight scenes could have been much longer than they were. So those were the key three main things to me, basically, for the Mortal Kombat movie. I did not like the story. I did not like this, how they was introducing, going back and doing the story structure of introducing the characters as they come to meet each other again. That made no sense. Also, trying to rush or trying to incorporate Cole as the leader of the Mortal Kombat champions, that made no sense. It was just too confusing. And as I said, it was poorly. The fight scenes, the number three, the fight scenes was just poorly. I think they were rushed, and we didn't really get no real solid, decent fight scenes. We only got maybe like one or two solid, decent fight scenes. That was actually three. I'll say three. One of the fight scenes in the beginning with the Scorpio, basically the bloodline of the Scorpion, and with Sub-Zero. That battle in the beginning where his wife and child one of his kids got killed, and then he took out all the clan, and then him and Sub-Zero had a face-off right there at the beginning of the film. That was a good fight scene. Then there were like at least two more fight scenes I could think of that was actually pretty decent. But other than that, there was no more good fight scenes. There was not really real good, solid fight scenes. The fight scenes that they were giving us between each character, they were just rushing it. Like just zap in, zap here, like rushing it. It just, to be a new Mortal Kombat film, like I said, I think they were more focused on like just trying to so-called give us a new different storyline to a certain extent, but it was just rushed. This film, to me personally, was rushed. I think they tried to rush and incorporate too much in this, but also incorporate things that we already knew, so it made no sense. So you're trying to bond and synchronize two different storylines, and that just made no sense. My opinion personally. But as I said, overall, this was not a bad film. It was a decent film. If you're looking for just a good movie on a movie night, it's good. But when we're talking about the whole complete movie making sense and having a flow of structure, I think it was not in course. Did not have correspondence. The Mortal Kombat movie 2021 did not have correspondence. It was just too much, all confusion and all over the place. And I think that possibly could have lost a lot of people with this movie. Like, what is going on here? So, in closing, as I get ready to wrap this up, if I had to give this movie a rating, an overall rating, if I had to give this movie Mortal Kombat, the new Mortal Kombat movie, a rating, I would give it a 7. I would give it a 6.5 or 7. I'll go ahead and say 7. I would give this movie a 7. I would give it a 7. The reason why I said I would give it a 7 is because I had more negative things to say about than positive things as far as to say with this new Mortal Kombat movie. I think that was a huge part of my decision in overall rating, and the way I based my rating is because of the fact that the storyline, I think the storyline just didn't make no sense. It was incorporating two different storylines. It was all over the place. I did not like how they were, the character code was introduced to us. I think that it was a poor job. It could have been done much better. They could have gave us a better, more storyline of code. Like when you're introducing him, especially trying to introduce him into the lead role of the MK Fighters. Okay, the League of Champions. That was just a poor job. I didn't like how they went back and just showed us the characters, like the storyline of trying to mix that, incorporate that storyline of the key characters being introduced to each other for the first time. That was a poor job because we had already seen that, and then the saga had already progressed past them. That first movie after them introducing themselves to each other and meeting each other. So that was a poor job. I also couldn't understand for what sole reason, how you see my point exactly. At the end of the film, you guys notice at the very end of the film, when Cole was talking to the guy that he was that he had already been around, he knew, and he had told him. But I guess when he was doing the UFC fighting, when he talked to the guy that was his manager or his trainer, what did he tell him? Or that owned that gym or that arena? What did he tell him? I'm going to Hollywood. And he said, he told, basically referring to, you want to be Hollywood now? He's like, no, not. I'm going for someone who I'm going for. Okay, not what I'm going to be. I'm who I'm going for. And then it showed that poster of Johnny Cage. That's what I'm talking about. That made no sense. You see how I'm saying? How they're giving us that storyline of Cole being the leader of the champions, of the League of Mortal Kombat champions, and us getting introduced to all the characters and all the characters meeting each other slowly by slowly. So obviously in the next Mortal Kombat, it's obvious that they're going to introduce Johnny Cage into the team in the next Mortal Kombat movie. You see how I'm saying? That was just too confusing and baffling. Like, we already got introduced to them and they already knew each other. So how are you going to introduce a new character, Cole, and as a possible leading role, and then reintroduce all the new cast as they first meet each other? We already had that. We had been past that in the past 3 films or 4 films of the Mortal Kombat franchise. That made no sense to me. So this is why like I said, it was a cool movie, good for watch, something just good to watch real quick. But being a Mortal Kombat fan, being very, very knowledgeable, and being a huge fan of the Mortal Kombat video games, the whole saga period, the whole franchise period, I was very dissatisfied with this. I was expecting something more better, a little bit more better than this. I thought it would be much better. I knew, of course, because they kept showing us the whole thing between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, we knew they were going to try to focus majority of the attention on that storyline, even though personally I think they still did a poor job with that. Just being very blunt, I still think they did a half-assed job with the storyline, the main storyline of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. I think that could have been better as well. So this is why I said that I gave it a rating of 7, because it was okay. But I had to give it a rating of 7 because I was disappointed with a lot of things. I think a lot of things were rushed. And I think some things that was given to us in this movie that should not have been given to us the way it was given to us, because we already had received it in prior movies. And I just think that they just did a half-assed job with this movie all around. But other than that, that's all I have for you guys. I want to thank you guys for tuning into the show. Much love and appreciation to you guys. So you guys already know what it is. It's the M to the J to the you know.